Good morning, Oran learners, and welcome to our webinar here in Asia Open RAN Academy, Knowledge Sharing Public Lecture Series, also known as the AORA Nose Pulse. And welcome to our new time slot every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Our speaker will share a fascinating topic about artificial intelligence and Open RAN and a principle-based AI governance in this wonderful morning here in the Philippines. And before we start, let me introduce myself. I am Roger Matias, one of the course co-creators here at the Asia Open RAN Academy. But first, let's find out who is AORA or Asia Open RAN. Asia Open RAN Academy is an activity funded by United States Agency for International Development as part of the Biden administration's Indo-Pacific Economic Framework or IPEF. The Academy is an alliance of academic, government, and industry stakeholders in the Philippines and beyond who share a common objective like advance an open, interoperable, reliable, and secure internet and vibrant digital economy through increased cooperation, competition, and choice. The Academy will be based in the Philippines and will ultimately serve the entire Indo-Pacific region. Now let's move on the ideation of Asia Open RAN Academy. So envisioning the Asia Open RAN Academy, it revolves in the periphery of the following principles. Partnerships are engendered among academics, industry, and government in the Philippines, Indo-Pacific and beyond. Open education resources, so anyone can audit a course, freely accessing all the lectures, readings, and discussion forums in the module. Curriculum standards are aligned to Open RAN, 3GPP or Third Generation Partnership Project, ITU or the International Telecommunications Union, IEEE or the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and other standards. And of course, a coordinated efforts to form a community of practice to pool talent, exchange knowledge, and share skills. Our strategic goals is to continuously evolve an Asian Smart Hub for Open RAN standards and solutions, to be a research-based academy and innovation incubator with virtual and physical laboratories, and to be able to become a technology advocate and increase awareness about Open RAN, to be a cost-effective and be on time in the delivery of solutions and learning to the clients, and of course, to be financially sustainable. Okay, so today's session is towards a principle-based AI governance. Dr. C will address governing artificial intelligence systems and practices ethically and delve into the principles that guide the development of AI, including inclusive growth, sustainable development, human-centered values and fairness, transparency and explainability, robustness, security and safety, and accountability, particularly in relation to the Philippines. Recommendations for areas defining AI governance and development will also be provided. And before we start, and before we introduce our speaker for today, let's see the house rules that we need to keep in mind. So we have the following house rules. So you need to attend at least 48 minutes to earn a certificate of attendance. Those who will actively participate in class by asking relevant questions will be given a certificate of participation. And to earn these certificates, you are also required to submit your feedback immediately after the session. And the certificates will be sent through your registered email, so make sure your email address are correct and valid before the next webinar. Only those who earn the certificates will be given access to the webinar materials. And of course, please actively participate in all webinar activities, and most importantly, enjoy and learn. And here we go. Our speaker for today is the chairman of Privacy Experts Group, eHealth, Department of Health, Department of Science and Technology, and a consultant for the development of a national AI governance framework and others. He is currently working in the field of AI ethics and governance, data privacy, open data, research ethics, digital humanities, epistemology of social media, ethical issues in genomics and medical tourism, culture of compliance in healthcare, forensic ethics, and social stratification. Ladies and gentlemen, students, guests, and engineers of the Philippines, let's give a warm virtual applause to Dr. Peter C.
Good morning. Zip tight and fasten your seatbelts. It's gonna be fast. This is a presentation on AI governance that's hopefully going to be principle based as opposed to simply rule based and some other approaches. I understand that this is a series on Open Run. Someone will have to make the connection. We can talk about some dots that can be linked together, but maybe as a kind of extended discussion. But I'll focus in the meantime on AI governance. So there is a report that we put together that is ai-ph.org/devframe. Thanks to those of you who have shared their inputs, their views, Maria and others, maybe also some other people on this call. Please feel free to see the development framework, because we will have to keep on running that for quite some time now. We did the report already, but that's just beta version, because as you can see, it's fast changing. The development of AI is pretty much around us and then gripping many of our sectors. So we're going to be talking about that for a while. So part of the things we did is to run stakeholding consultations with the different sectors. We have AI startups, businesses, big tech, academe, government agencies, civil societies. What may be rather obvious there, some of the gaps, some of the sectors we haven't consulted just yet. I'm with the eHealth Technical Working Group, and for surprise, we have yet to do that with the health sector, because as you know, for instance, ChatGPT already passed 3 board exams. Medical board exams. It passed an MBA exam, UPenn, and it can do so much more. So probably can think of AI as a force multiplier in healthcare. There are people in the barrios, and maybe Open Run can help really expand our telecoms, our telecommunications network, and so we can run AI to be able to improve healthcare in far-flung areas. So I put in there academe, but that's just superficially, because the ones we talk to in the academe or from the academe are people who are already inclined to doing AI in a way. So AI programs, ComSci teachers, and the like, IT people. But then, as you know, AI now is so much more in the vogue in academia. Sciences Po in France already banned ChatGPT. So it's creating so much ruckus in academia, and so we should probably be talking to the academic people. They're kind of worried that students will plagiarize or will just let ChatGPT, write the papers for them. No, and it's not just ChatGPT, by the way. So for instance, Bing supposed to have introduced ChatGPT version 4 in their platform. So in experimental way, a few days ago, inunahan nila yung announcement ng Google to do more ChatGPT like technology. So in any case, it's a stakeholding process that's just going to be in currency for a very long time. No, I can see. No, so in this presentation, we'll be talking some of the topics in the report, but I have no intention of really doing a drill down. So I have to apologize that some of these areas would be rather dealt with here more superficially, and we're supposed to be doing. But rest assured that there's this paper elsewhere that you can check out. I already gave you the link, and probably you guys can help us really focus on some areas that you're interested in. So I have no intention to do depth for now. I'm erring on the side of comprehensiveness, no, as opposed to really heftiness, no, or depth in the conversation. So, but maybe in the discussions we'll get down to the rabbit hole a little bit. No? So this is also consistent with the Philippine AI roadmap. We have a Philippine AI roadmap, but some people have criticized it's rather limited. No, it's very much industry focused, but you cannot fault DTI for that point. No, there are key ethical principles guiding Philippine AI system that we have articulated in the guidance. No, and then of course there's some AI governance elements that we have to surface now when we talk about application of AI in the industry. So there's this literature review that we did, and it's something that is a moving target. You cannot possibly exhaust the literature on AI, a governance for that matter. Stakeholder consultation, it's an ongoing process. I said we haven't really done this with the health sector just yet, no, more thoroughly. Academia, very superficial. Maybe telecoms people, just a little bit. There were some representatives from telecom, but no depth. They would usually bail out after some discussions because they probably don't see this as something directly related, for instance, to infrastructure. Right? They see themselves as infra people, which I think is rather unfortunate because telecommunications isn't just infrastructure. No, best practices in the framework development. When I put scare quotes with on best practices because it's a nascent development. You can't possibly have best practice just yet. So, but everyone is trying to do measured exploration of AI. You see Europe doing that supposedly more systematically, China more experimentally, I guess. Inhibitors and drivers of AI. We will point that out a little bit because although that can be a study on its own, because that's going to impact how AI will be adopted in the country. No? So why framework? We have to clarify our shared principles and values. So we put that in a framework. Otherwise, it's just going to be, bawal there, bawal here, do this, not that, and so on. But framework also allows you to integrate plans, policy choices, approaches, strategies, and really be self-conscious about the way we run things. And that's what the whole point of governance, as opposed to you have some leader, say Vladimir Putin, who tells you what to do, or pretty much aligning your sentiments with his. No, it cannot be like that. No, and then people can be talking about some coherent guidance documents. Now, in this particular case, our governance framework, no, and of course the roadmap. Now, framework of rules and practices, so that you can keep on adjusting the rules based on practice, for instance. And so that's going to also help you calibrate the framework, because even the framework itself would not be static. No? So we have this. So supposedly AI is to benefit the Filipinos. That's our goal. But as you know, that is a moving target. There is so much to be done to make Filipinos probably also AI worthy. To bring them up to the level where they can take advantage of the many capabilities of AI, impacting our industries and economy. So there is quite a range of things that we intend to do, but certainly isn't just confined to economics, to the economic aspect of life. Politics, this is getting to be front and center in discussions every time election comes around, because they think some politicians are unduly disadvantaged by social media, AI algorithms that put their message down or perhaps amplify so-called fake news. No, Singaporean government see this as a really important exercise. As a matter of fact, when Singapore rolled out its own AI framework, they made it really clear that this isn't just government. This is meant to guide the private sector as well, now, especially in boosting private sector capacity to participate in AI development. So there are so many things to talk about, but I suppose, as I said, we run time at this, even in for the introduction part now. So the other consideration has to do with principles themselves, and these are value-based principles to guide the development and utilization of AI. If you haven't noticed, the major frameworks in the world would always say we are ethics first. No, there's probably some kind of virtue signaling going on there, because, for instance, the Europeans would primarily say, ours is a country, or is a union united by a certain set of principles, and this set of principles are fundamentally moral principles. No, it's a different story altogether. So when you have the North American side discussing AI framework, so you have maybe more studies driven, more industry driven. You have lobbyists, influencing certain frameworks. But certainly they're there. They just need to be articulated certain ways. UK is another probably distinct approach, and of course China and Singapore would be our neighbors approaching AI differently from the Europeans or the Americans, or even Canadians, no, or UK for that matter. No, so these principles are enumerated here. As you can see, the first 5 are pretty much European, UK, to some extent the North American. The last one, I would say that this is an addition to what has been articulated, and I'll point out why is that really important. The 6th one, because by the way, the numbers are flexible. So you have, as you can see here, some of the principles have been collapsed. 2 or 3 principles have been collapsed into one, and then we added the 6th one for Philippines. Not much articulation of that elsewhere in other documents, guidance documents, but I'll make the case that this is, a matter of fact, important based on studies, on theory and history, no, and especially, of course, our context as Philippines. So number 1, inclusive growth, sustainable development, well-being. Second, human-centric values and fairness, transparency and explainability, robustness and security and safety, accountability. Now, it depends on which sector you talk to, because they'd say, oh, it has to be safety first, it has to be robustness first, it should be number 1. So first 5 probably can say we can interchange, rearrange according to your preferences, but I would say that you also always have to insert number 6. No? So Philippines, you have this Philippine Innovation Act 2018 that supports R&D. So we're pretty much looking at this as some kind of an innovative approach to doing things. No, but as you can see, fast forward, things are moving really fast. It's not just innovation anymore. It's also a tool for innovation. You understand? So on the one hand, some people will say, "Oh, it's so few are able to do this, and you have to experiment. You have to understand the coding. You have to have people with strong computer science background, with statistics background." And then you'd say, "Oh, we have to approach that area there with these capable people in our team." But not anymore. Even the idiots probably can use AI tools to do more AI. So it's not just one way anymore. So it's a caution on looking at AI simply as a tool for innovation, as opposed to as a destination for innovation, but it can also be a tool for developing innovation itself. No, so another aspect of there is the benefits and burdens being shared equitably, because as you can see, there is so much so much burden as well in terms of spending. So I'm looking at the figures. Countries are willing to spend on AI. For instance, UK would say, "Oh, we have to move. This is just the plan." Yeah, no, but of course it's subject to politics and other dynamics. AI would say we have to spend so much trillions of pounds to be able to be the number one destination of AI researchers in the world. That's so much money to be mobilized. In the Philippines, they're signaling from the DTI that we have to rally our politicians, our government, so that we have to be spending so much money. So that's tax money. So that's the burden side, but it's not really clear whether the benefits could really be experienced by ordinary Filipinos. So imagine if you're in Sulu or in Siasi, with hardly any access to good internet. How are you going to benefit AI? So that kind of discussion. So human-centric values and fairness. These are the things that our law has probably taught us in grade school or in even kindergarten, that we have to treat people fairly. But easier said than done, because when it comes to algorithm, you will have to deal with decisions that are really removed from humans. No, even if you'd say AI has to be human-centric, that is more of aspirational, really, because by definition, autonomous systems are outside humans. Kaya nga tawag autonomous, and they may have discriminatory consequences, no, as a result of bias. No, so fairness is pretty much front and center of discussions in AI. No, respect for human rights. As you know, one of our neighbors uses AI extensively for surveillance purposes. No, so that if you have a terrible record, you may not even be able to travel. It's going to affect your capacity or your chances of getting loans, of pursuing better opportunities. And so in that way, maybe AI application is not that fair. No, data privacy also is threatened by certain applications of AI. And I understand that people would tend to be dismissive. Oh, this is only happening in China or some other despotic states. But we import a lot of gears from China, not to do Chinese scare, but it's not a long shot to see how this might be used for nefarious purposes. And so that is an ongoing concern. No? So human-centric values of fairness, values and fairness, talking about how human rights will have to be protected as a non-negotiable point. No? And this is going to be a challenge to national security people. There's so much activities in their department that may tempt them to do shortcuts, because the rules are pretty much available. For instance, the use of data, the use of information from data brokers. Even the US government is not able to resist that. The national security community of the US would be very much prime user, or are prime users of data from data brokers. And so there are questions about how those data sets are brokered, how they might undermine certain respect for human rights. So this is an ongoing concern. No, we have participation from the Commission on Human Rights, and they said that we really have to be more conscious of protection of the human rights of people. And this tends to be a discussion in its own, because the good old-fashioned human rights advocates would tend to look at this as a not something that really in their plate just yet. Now, for instance, online human rights. Human rights would be about probably torture, all these human rights issues back in the older generation of human rights back in the 80s and even 90s. Now, the right to internet is supposed to be human rights if you're in Estonia, for instance. And if you talk about that as a human right, good luck with that in the Philippines, no? If you can demand access to human rights from the state, no? So defining fairness of particular concern to AI startups and representatives who are very much on the edge of AI research. So before they can really be conscious about fairness, they have to be very much conscious about the algorithms that they work, so that fairness as a primary consideration may seem to be more of an afterthought rather than an initial starting point. No? So clear and ambiguous definition of fairness is essential. This is one of the suggestions because for instance, in the way analysts or AI researchers would run AI applications in some sectors, where they get paid, for instance, profit or optimization comes first. Fairness may not necessarily, not even second, may not even come second. No? So this is what I talked to you about. The big tech people participating in our workshop would say, in the first place, it has to be robust. The other principles are fine and dandy, but it has to be robust, it has to be secure, it has to be safe. So for instance, you see Microsoft pretty much advocating this, no? And I understand where they're coming from, no? So it's not just going to be number two, it has to be number one. So I see the point of that, but as I said, application of AI is quite diverse. Applications of AI are quite diverse. You see AI applied in seemingly trivial areas. Now, for instance, automation, and there's no person there. Safety is not necessarily going to be primary consideration there, no? Although it's still important just the same, no? So robust AI ecosystem is a primary consideration. When you talk about experimentation, self-driving cars, for instance, it has to be done safely. You have periodically, you see occasionally in the news. The other day, I saw a coverage of someone napping while on a freeway, on his Tesla car. So that is not something that would qualify probably as a robust AI ecosystem, because we've seen accidents as a result of that. Accountability is another. Now, who is ultimately responsible? We are not there yet where we assign accountability to artificial intelligence. Accountability to us is really natural persons. But in the context of say business, and say comparing that with the US scene, for instance, where corporations are people, but you cannot jail people, no? So in the country, at least, accountability would still be your CEO, with your operator, natural persons, as opposed to juridical persons. So you have to think in terms of responsibility, answerability, sanctionability. You cannot sanction corporation to the extent you can sanction individuals. They're supposed to be able to answer specific concerns. And of course, responsibility meaning legal responsibility, administrative, possibly even criminal. No? And violations of privacy, for that matter, are really criminal violations. No? The law has criminalized illicit uses or utilization of personal data, for that matter. No? Transparency and explainability, I put them together here because people are concerned that you're just talking about transparency, and it doesn't really going to translate to any meaningful sense in the context of AI. You're talking about thousands of data points, and you'd say, oh, you want me to be transparent? Come on, there's this code. Read it, and this is how we run the algorithm. And for ordinary folks, that's just not a practical task. No, I cannot examine, or I'm not in a position to examine an algorithm with thousands of variables, micro variables being considered to produce the outcome. So the proponents have to be able to explain in different levels. So they can explain technically, can explain to laymen, to policymakers, to different stakeholders, and that poses a challenge because you talk to AI coders, see if we can extract anything meaningful beyond the jargons. No? So interacting with humans have to be made in a way that that's transparent and explainable. No? So if you have questions, so let me check. I may be rambling now, so let me check if there are questions. So feel free to interrupt. Just I will answer the questions much later, siguro. But let me continue for now. I didn't see any. So explaining AI in non-technical terms is really important. Trust. The reason our team added this in the set of principles that you can be transparent all you want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your public would trust you. And you see this as some kind of a paradox. No? In general, states, governments have been increasingly transparent in many areas of the world. But as you can see, transparency at some point would not necessarily have a corresponding increase in public trust. You understand? So that if you're transparent, it doesn't mean that, I will trust you. Trust is very important, especially in research, because AI research or otherwise, because it brings down transaction cost. And let me explain this to you in a rather pedestrian way. So if you don't trust your girlfriend or your partner, you probably would surveil her or him. No? And that means cost, metabolic or financial cost. So you have you're worked up all day, what he's doing, so that is a terrible relationship in that regard. Now, the relationship in the public and AI community should be one based on trust. But as they say, trust is earned. It's not something that is just handed to you for free. No. So we see this as how can we develop trust in AI. No. What confidence building measures do we have to exercise? So, for instance, Open RAN, for that matter, I probably see this as an opening. No. So there's all this discussion about open standards, and I've been advocating open standards for the longest time. No. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be trusted by people. And so maybe Open RAN champions can start thinking about ways that, the standard is really trusted, being bought in by big players, by community champions, and so on. And that works well with AI, AI as well. So there has to be faith that there are regulations that are ensuring AI products or services are not released in the market until they meet certain standards. And so this is something that, causes tension. So because you have, on the one hand, business interest that pushes this really hard, and you have the public that may have a mixed experience of what is being pushed to them, AI included. And so this circles back to other key principles that we discussed earlier about safety, security, robustness, and so on and so forth. Now, the third area that I want to talk about would be the elements of AI. I will just skim through these points because this is pretty much in the area of corporate governance. But you can make the argument that you can look at the country as some kind of an organization. So that what applies to corporations to some extent would be applicable to the state. And you can Singapore is in that area, is in that zone. No, they think of Singapore as some kind of a Singapore Incorporated, and I see that many policymakers would love to mimic Singapore, despite all the obvious differences. No, just the same, the point of having an efficient organization, corporation or otherwise, or even just a non-governmental association, will have to be looking at these elements: board oversight, communication tools, being able to engage your stakeholders, internal and external, having a culture of compliance that is in sync with expectations, with certain standards, how you are going to engineer human values such that transparency becomes a default rather than an afterthought, how you're going to process information yourselves, because AI advocates, AI practitioners are also consumers of information. As a matter of fact, everything would be about information, and so you have to be seeing consciously what goes beyond the mere consumption of information. Hence the dynamics that I have just pointed out to you, points 3.1, 2.2, 3.4. No, so in terms of investment priorities, as I said, in organizational level, you see some organizations who are pretty much conscious and say, oh, we go in this direction. I mean, I'm familiar with one organization that pretty much actively incorporates AI tools in their workflow. That's a very important consideration, because you can give a lip service to AI and say, oh, we're going to use AI, this and that, and there's some of the members of the organization would disparately, separately, in their own volition, practice AI. But it's another when you try to incorporate AI more consciously in an organizational level. You have to be conscious about cost, because AI is not cheap. For instance, in my particular practice, I use a lot of synthetic media, for instance. That's not cheap. How are you going to incorporate that in workflow? There's no training in the schools right now, where AI is pretty much front and center. So these are the things that you have to consider when you talk about investment priorities. It's not just about infrastructure, it's about education and incorporating it into your workflow. IT architecture, IT people are pretty much worked up with this, because on the one hand, you say, oh, AI governance, but how is that any different from IT governance? And there are already tons of standards out there. Are you going to make the case that AI is an exception? It's a special, and that's not really just IT. AI, IT audit, important coordination, governance framework, these considerations. I will just time check 9:40. I'd like very much to open things up for discussions. So I will be skipping many of the slides here, but just to see how thorough we need to be when it comes to government governance. There are some governance areas, and I see the work of Lubana, one of our input. I worked with her in the formulation of this framework. Pretty much took stock. She took stock of the different governance standards out there and incorporated it to something like this. No? So I cannot give justice to this in a short period, but I'm just pointing out that it's there now. Let me skip that now and go to number 4, human-centric outcomes and processes. AI solutions should be human-centered, and you see this principle also echoed in other guidance documents, EU for that matter. US not so much just yet, but you see people in this direction. For instance, California very much conscious of this because they're in the ground zero of AI development. So it's important that this principle is being observed. Potential impact on the workforce, and I'm working right now with a professor in LaSalle, and he's doing a voiceover for his own book, no? And it's quite tedious if I just keep on going back to him, or our team would go back to him, back and forth on the corrections. And I said, how do you feel about your voice being mimicked by an AI? And so we tried it, and it worked. So telling stories now can be pretty much done by AI to some extent. Now, of course, the dialogues would still be problematic, but if you're just making corrections, you don't have to deal with humans. No, just do this with machines, because so much more efficient. It doesn't get tired. The machine doesn't get tired. So, but in his admission, say, oh my goodness, I can see that I'll be irrelevant in a matter of year. No, will you still work with me? I said, of course. No, there's so much more creativity coming from you, and AI can only do so much. But you see the threat, you see the idea, and many of the routine jobs would certainly be replaced by machines. No, so, and that is a very threatening prospect. So in the Philippines, if you're going to sell this to Filipinos and say, let's move towards AI and try to hide the threat, I think that, or underestimate the threat, I think people would feel betrayed, no, because they may not be given sufficient heads up to really train in time to do more skills, or to have more skills to be able to survive in years to come. No, so as I said, autonomous systems by definition would really be out of control, and that is very concerning. We see this already in war. You have some drone that can pretty much pull the trigger even if you cut off the internet given certain parameters, and that is a problem. So making decisions of life and death, for instance, people believe would have humans in the loop, so that you cannot kill another person if there's no really conscious, serious deliberation when they have to be killed, or when they have to be terminated. No? So New Zealand is leading in this respect, and I tend to agree with New Zealand. We should be advocating the banning of so-called killer robots, no, of manipulative and exploitative practices. This is pretty much a European thing also. Indiscriminate surveillance, shout out to China, and social scoring, also shout out to China. But as you can see, it's not. The reality is far more complex than making China a punching bag, because PICO score in the US would have some kind of AI, some kind of scoring in some aspects of our life, but certainly not as staggering in scale as in China. No, so manipulation, and exploitative practices. Social media, for instance, is one area where this is being done, and you see also some examples in the consumption of digital goods, such as pornographic materials, erosion of privacy for the criminal and justice system. No, there is an inventory of this in the document I have shared with you earlier. Unfortunately, we won't be able to deal with them more thoroughly. No? So, real-time biometric identification system has to be exercised with greater caution. This is the take from the European Commission. Social scoring. I'm not sure if there's anyone in this call is affected by this, but if you are, feel free to pick it up. I won't have much opportunity to discuss this. No, open data, consistent with the spirit of promoting Open RAN. I've been advocating for open data for quite some time. I hope we're going to have some traction. The University of the Philippines is supposed to release some kind of implementing rules and regulations for its own open data policy. But that's the idea. We need data to have better AI, and tons of the data. We're talking about lakes of data, not just buckets of data. So Philippines is not a starting example of being open in data. Much of our data are open, in PDFs, and they are not necessarily machine readable. So if I have to emphasize one more aspect of open data and its openness, it's really being machine readable so that you can have your AI robots roam around and collect them. No, so I will 9:47. I will skip many of the slides because I don't have enough time, and I saw many questions already in the Q&A. So this is an inventory of the risk involved in AI. It's a UK data, and in the workshops, people are insisting that we should have our own. Short of telling them, give me more money or give my team more money, or assign more researchers to do more nuanced, more updated research on the risk of data, risk of AI in the Philippines. But I suppose this is a good starting point already. No? So there were some discussions in the workshop. Sabi ng iba, underestimated dito yung risk of social media, of AI in social media. And I agree. But we need more data because you have some anecdotes, of course, like this UK incident during the Duterte election, possibly also BBM election. But then the idea is give me more data beyond the Cambridge Analytica incident, no? Because that's so yesteryears already. Right now, we have to have more data to really see the extent of AI risk in social media, for instance. Some of the areas we need to address, but I said I would not necessarily be giving due justice to this discussion. So I will I'll probably end my discussions here. If you have any questions, let me go over the questions now. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peter. That was very interesting and insightful information and presentation. So let me help you, Dr. Peter, on the questions from our participants. So coming from Rinaldo de Guzman, good morning po, Dr. C. Do you know up to what extent is our government's tech team at work with remote tasks?
I have no information. I'm sorry, Rinaldo.
Okay, next question, Dr. Peter, coming from Jason Zumbilo. Good day, Doc. I'm only familiar with ChatGPT so far. Is there any AI company that rivals this? I heard about Bard from Google. Are there more? Follow-up question is it really possible for AI to gain consciousness like humans, speaking only with movie reference as fictional theory?
People are so fixated with ChatGPT right now. It's the flavor of the month and probably the year, no? And my colleagues in the university are already edgy on ChatGPT. They've seen the lead from Sciences Po of Paris. But there are other areas now where AI is really being used. But you're correct. Bard is soon to be released, and there's a milder version of Bard that doesn't require much computing resources. It's going to be released soon. Inunahan sila ng Microsoft, ChatGPT 4 incorporated in Bing, but I've checked it out. It's pretty lame right now. Not as compelling as ChatGPT. I must confess that I use ChatGPT almost on a daily basis, and it's already incorporated in our workflow. So the knee-jerk reaction of people, especially from academia, oh, let's ban this, but you know how that works, banning anything, especially if it's out there really very much, being used. It's like banning alcohol in the era of prohibition in America. It's not gonna work. But I unfortunately my institution is not just up to this. We have to learn despite or with or without OpenGPT. But that's beside the point. But there are more there now in different areas. Robotics, for instance, in synthetic media, all facets of life now basically has AI. But if you're so hung up with ChatGPT because it's so direct, you have an interaction. There are alternatives, but not as good as ChatGPT. Still the best in the market. All right, continue.
Thank you, Dr. Peter. Next is coming from Clint Hassan. How does AI being integrated to Open RAN And then what algorithm and use case in combining the AI technology to data transmissions and communications, both wire and wireless technology?
I'm not privy to implementations of this sort. That's why I made a qualifier at the beginning of my talk that it's if there's going to be any relation to Open RAN, it's going to be tangential, some arbitrary connections or dots that we have to connect. It depends really on the implementers, how much AI they're going to put in Open RAN. But I would say that in the spirit of openness, they probably would have to really publicize the standards interfacing with AI.
Yeah, and additionally on that, Dr. Peter, for the Open RAN, it will be located in the RAN Intelligent Controller, Sir Clint, and it could be a non-real-time RAN Intelligent Controller and a near real-time Intelligent Controller. So one basic use case is the massive MIMO, where you balance the users in the network, and then you limit the intervention of the human. Or like, for example, the optimization. So that's one of the application of the AI in Asia Open. In the Open RAN, not Asia Open.
Yeah. Maybe also bandwidth shaping, these things.
Yeah. Okay, from Jason Sumbilio, Dr. Peter, who's responsible for AI's mistakes and what happens if AI replaced humans in the workplace?
It's going to be humans. We're not there yet. I sometimes joke with my students that I'm sucking up to AI, because in the future, if they are going to murder us in our sleep, they'll probably make an exception of me. But I would say it has to be humans. In the workplace, I think policymakers are to blame if they want. Policymakers and leaders are to be blamed if they don't prepare their constituents early enough. It has to be yesterday. To prepare them to survive the onslaught of AI, because that's just a juggernaut that you will not be able to hold off anytime sooner.
Okay, the next is from Jeffrey Sison. Good morning po. AI is already around us. Our phones are even listening to us. Question, how do we safeguard or do check and balance on this implementation of AI? How do we safeguard our personal data being used for other than for what is intended?
There are no hard and fast rules, but I would say you will have to develop some kind of a digital hygiene. And this is very unfortunate that our schools are not teaching that. Australia made a conscious effort of media literacy, but that's already passé. Digital hygiene is so much more. I don't know why you have to enable your geolocation, for instance, and Google is violating our rights in that regard. They're trying to be proactive about this, but they can't help it, because it's something like it's a the whole point of temptation, because it may not come. So why do you yield to temptation? Because it may not come. So the same with technology. So many things that are on the cell phone are potentially violative of personal rights. So what you do is to know them, to be forearmed, and try to develop some kind of digital hygiene. I think that should be part of the conversation. AI will be around us. Machines will be talking to each other. There are mga chismusa yan, mga yan. There will be a dominance of digital mariteses in the online world. So how do you survive given that machines will be talking to each other? So practice digital hygiene, and it's probably going to be a different lecture.
Okay, well said, Dr. Peter. It's a digital hygiene. Okay, moving on to Ray Lagumbay's question. Good day, Dr. Peter. Is there a possibility to limit the ability and capacity of one AI to its function and purpose? Or is it unlimited functions to generate depending on its data experience?
You can, in theory, put some breaks, and you have to. But I would say that's not the spirit of AI. The AI is there to roam around freely. There's this slogan in the 1960s saying, "Data longs to be free." So the same with AI. AI has to be free to some extent, but we exercise human control because AI has gotten to the power that is so much more has so much more capacity for abuse as well.
Mhm.
That's the only qualifier we have, because otherwise, when there's data floating around, AI cannot be restricted to to just that. By the way, what is happening with ChatGPT, they're deliberately trying to remove information like how to make a bomb, and then the ChatGPT will say, do not make a bomb. But it's a very conscious effort on the part of individuals. But then I can work around that, no. I can work around, like, if I understand how bomb works, and then I can ask ChatGPT to assemble the components to tell me. So it's pretty much a token effort on part of ChatGPT operators to not to cause harm.
Mhm.
Do not use certain discriminatory expressions, but then there are many ways you can work around those limitations. So I would say that I think it has to be really a constant engagement with our AI operators, with AI proponents, no. It cannot be one time. Hindi mo sabihin na, oh, let's legislate to ban the information on how to make bombs, because, as I said, information longs to be free.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you, Dr. Peter. Next question coming from Rina May Martin. The AI governance system is possible to be built here. Is the Philippines ready for AI adoption? And also, sir, do we have plans and strategies already in using AI for enhancing and managing in terms of telecommunications?
Telecoms, I have superficial information already how they're dealing with AI. You probably someone in this call is probably in a better position to do just that. But the short answer is there is no choice. We have to be ready.
Mhm.
We have been left behind already, no. Ang yabang-yabang ng mga Pilipino, totoo may galing, but kumbaga sa resulta, we're not necessarily competitive, no. We see the case of Thailand, Vietnam overtaking us, and possibly soon Cambodia. So we have to be there and really recognize. We really have to master enough energy to uplift the entire country. So we cannot. It's not going into AI is not an option.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peter. Next question coming from Clint Hassan. Are there any business model for AI technology that was implemented in other countries used for the government, especially the usual and common operations from local to national level and vice versa?
Not model in a general way, but certain outstanding practices, for instance, in the way traffic is managed, in the way certain things are procured. One of my challenges in the Philippines that if you want to do AI, you please apply that immediately in procurement. Another area of application in AI would be the city hall. You should ban city halls that do not use AI, or that use analysis of their own data. So the short answer is no blanket. There are some pocket applications in certain areas of government.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peter. Next question from John Lozada. Good day, doctor. To your own opinion, is AI will be dangerous in the future?
It is potentially very dangerous, but it is also potentially very useful. So I hope the good will outweigh the bad.
Okay, next from Karin Joy Berry, what are the possible ways that the government can ensure regulation of AI technology to prevent abuse against citizens?
There is no panacea. There is no one size fits all solution. It has to be informed citizenry, because you will have to demand your government providers, operators to use AI responsibly. And you cannot engage AI operators if you don't do your homework. If you don't use AI yourself, because when talking to people about AI, it's just a sexy word, and but it's also very misunderstood. No, AI, they fear that it's going to murder them in the sleep. No, that's not yet possible, but maybe soon. And so, but anyway, the idea is no substitute for really educated, well-informed, technically adept citizenry, and to some extent, it can be achieved.
Yeah, that's right. Another follow-up question from Leslie Tuba. How will AI affect our jobs, business, and economy?
Oh, right now, you can look it up. There is an inventory of AI that are going to be affected by there are current jobs very much affected by AI already. Look it up. There's a site, I forgot the URL. Tasks like accounting, all those, less creative jobs would be very much impacted by AI. It's going to be threatened by AI. Call centers, as you can see, the Philippines is a call center sunshine industry. But we now have to move to higher value, because the chatty type, saan ba dito, where is this information, and that the robots is already able to do that more efficiently. So we have to do the human thing for Filipinos, because otherwise, if it's just triaging information, that kind of call center industry is dying. No?
Okay. This one, Dr. Peter, is coming from Edelbert Baul. Good morning, Doc. Most of the questionable doings that China is involved, including surveillance, can the world stop China, or we all know China do not care and still continue to develop advancement in terms of AI? Thank you.
I'm not an expert on geopolitics, so pass on that one, but let's engage with China. That's just what I can say.
Okay. Some questions already answered by Dr. Peter, so I'll move on to other questions. From Rene Salmigo, app nowadays have AI workflows even in Canva. Other education apps also have. Can we use AI checker for assessing this, or by regulation for academia?
Yeah, there are checkers, but there are checkers out there. But I can tell you that even checkers can be beat by AI. I've done that myself. Originality.ai, and there's another one. So it tells you how much % robot. But then I can work with ChatGPT such that I can get past those screeners. So I think it's a question ultimately of pedagogy. You have to teach in a way that will not require students to cheat. Yeah. So no need for AI essays.
Thank you, Dr. Peter. Question coming from Benjamin Labadan. Dr. C, medyo mahaba po, no? Correlating the legal doctrine called proximate cause and one of your slides presented a while ago about responsibility, accountability, and others. Have you known of incidents in the world where serious accidents were incurred due to the usage of AI technology? And if so, what had transpired as to who were charged as accountable? And is it one who wrote the algorithms, or those who approved the law covering it, or the ones who actually use the AI equipment improperly or even properly? This is somewhat similar to a previous question, but you may tackle on the statistics aspects of this question.
Very good question, Benji. So there are incidents. One, for instance, it would be the Apple discrimination incident for gender and color. So for instance, for gender, given the same income, mas mataas pa nga yung babae, but the fact na babae siya, ang nabigyan ng mas malaking credit ay yung lalaki. So there's a lawsuit in that regard. Meron ding black. Now, black people tend to be be flagged more frequently than whites in surveillance situations. So yun yung ginawa ngayon. So ChatGPT is very much aware of that. So they're spending so much money to prevent that from happening, because otherwise they'll get lawsuits here and there. So there are many incidents already. I have cited to you the bias in gender, color, and certain demographic profiles. Yes, there are lawsuits, and Apple paid, for instance. So you're right. Ang responsible is really the algorithm, but then you cannot imprison algorithms. So kaya nagbabayad. So far kasi civil pa lang ito, wala pang criminal. We look forward to the day, and it's forthcoming, guys. No, I'm telling you, it's forthcoming that misuse of AI algorithms will be criminal. Sa ngayon, civil pa lang. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. Next is coming from Carlo. Is there any government agency in the Philippines who is responsible for AI regulations or standards, if any?
Yeah, the leadership right now is with DTI, but not so much as regulation of AI itself. No, so legislation is yet to come. Right now, devolved pa, and then nebulous yung mga responsible agencies. But for the goal setting strategies, that's going to be in the purview of DTI.
Thank you. Next from Euphemia Akol, can AI really overcome human intelligence, Doctor?
This is a question that we deal with in a semester's course, and I have no intention of answering that in a but somehow give you an idea. There's this generalized intelligence, maybe not able to surpass human just yet, but if you're talking about specialized intelligences, maybe AI is already doing better than humans. That necessarily count as human intelligence taken broadly.
Okay. Follow-up question is, in your opinion, which aspects of humanity that AI is not able to achieve?
None. Now, let me qualify that, because you can look at the literature, you can mimic consciousness, you can mimic self-replication, and there is this discussion about non-substrate substrate discrimination. So kung just because you have carbon, you have this and that, you feel superior, that's not a good starting point. So you may have to think of differentiation differently, no, not just your skin and blood, because that's not a relevant characteristic when it comes to comparing humans with machines. But I would say that we should really be going for the concept of humans with machines. No, it doesn't have to be humans versus machines, because that's, I think it's rather juvenile.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peter, and those were the questions that we have answered, and thank you very much for accommodating those queries, and it stirs up a lot of interest sa ating mga participants for today. And let me share my screen before we okay, Dr. Peter, before we let you go, where can we find you after this session? I think people would like to follow you or to
I'm not giving my GPS coordinates, but my email is on the chat.
Okay. Let us share with you the future training and schedules here in Asia Open RAN. Next week will be Open RAN in 2023 by Alexander Botting, a Senior Director, Global Security and Technology Strategy in Venable LLP. On February 25, Open RAN for Private Networks, Health and Medical Toolkits by Dr. Portia Fernandez Marcelo and Mr. Jagadish Jitantuluri. So please take note that in March, our webinars will be conducted from 8 a.m. So mas maaga po tayo to 9 a.m. to give way for the CPD Granting Training Program. Yeah, so this is open for all ECE, ECE professionals. So this is a 4-week event with 16 CPD points starting from March 4, 11, 18, and 25. So it will start from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So mga topic natin is interoperability in Open RAN, Open RAN value chain, Open RAN use cases, and Open RAN security. So these are also very interesting topics, no? And you will also get 16 CPD points. And please remember to register it, no, sa inyong myicep.net account. So nandun na po yan sa inyong myicep.net account. Just click the registration. It's free to all professionals. So take advantage of this opportunity. And we have 2 links that will be shared with you. One link in the 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. session, and another link from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. session. So dapat yung dalawang sessions is kailangan nyo puntahan or ma-attendan. So you can earn your CPD points. Okay. And lastly, there is a special webinar for academic partners happening on February 17, next Friday from 10:30 a.m. to 12 noon. So this is an appreciation course designed for university, ECE, and ICT professors and lecturers to provide the macro level knowledge of what is Open RAN and other EORA courses. So you have to register in advance for this webinar. So the link will be provided also in our Facebook page and also in your respective emails. And after registering, you will receive a confirmation email containing the information about joining the webinar. And lastly, to make an active online presence will help boost attendees and potential participants for the upcoming events of Asia Open RAN Academy. Please like, follow, share our Facebook page to get updates from the latest news about the EORA and Open RAN community. Okay, and thank you everyone for attending our webinar today, and hope to see you again next Saturday for an exciting and interesting topics about Open RAN. And before you go, always remember, the future belongs to those who are open to possibilities. And the future of RAN is open. Again, this is Richard Matias. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. For those who only want to attend the 8 to 9 in March, the 8 to 9 session, which is our normal nose pulse, you're welcome to attend only the 8 to 9, but you're also welcome to attend the full session from 8 to 12. Yes, so students, if you're interested, you're welcome.